Your church has a message it wants to share with the world, but which platforms are going to help you do that best? Maybe social media? But what about billboards, radio, TV, direct mail? Well, today we're going to compare digital media versus traditional media using 5 different categories to help your church choose the most affordable and efficient platforms to use in marketing.
Well, hey there, and welcome to Pro Church Tools, the show where in 10 minutes or less, you're going to get a dose of tips and tactics to help your church share the message of Jesus while we navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. I'm your host, Alex Mills, joined as always by the boss man, Brady Shearer.
When you're living through the biggest communication shift in 500 years, there's a lot of different options that your church can go with when it comes to marketing, outreach, and taking your message and sharing it with the world. And so in this episode of Pro Church Tools, we want to do the ultimate comparison, grudge, cage match between traditional and digital media. What do we mean by digital media? Well, particularly, we're going to be focusing on social. You could include email as well. We're not going to pay too much attention to that in this specific episode. And then when it comes to traditional media, we're talking billboards, radio, TV, direct mail, 4 different mediums and platforms that I've seen churches use in the past. And I'm talking all sizes of churches.
Oh, yeah.
I have been at churches of 100 or less who have spent money on radio and billboards and definitely direct mail. So 5 different categories that we're going to compare these 2 different mediums and options for. Category number 1 is audience. Here's what we know right now about social media. 7 out of every 10 American adults uses Facebook and is active on that platform. The second largest demographic on Facebook is those ages 55 plus. Boomers spend an average of about 4 hours per week on social, and Gen X and millennials spend about 7 hours per week on social. The reason I love social media so much is that it is an attention hoarding platform. When it comes to taking your message and sharing it with the world, you want platforms where people are paying attention to. And by choice, every single day, the majority of the continent and the world opens up platforms like Facebook and Instagram and engages with them. That's what makes them so amazing to use, because more people are paying attention to social than traditional mediums, which just means that you've got more people that you can reach, more at-bats. The more at-bats you have, the more likelihood you have of reaching someone.
Yeah, and the best part about these digital mediums is that when it comes to your audience, you can get insights into who your audience is specifically and what they like and what they don't like and how old they are and where they're living and what their interests are. And so that helps you cater and target your audience more specifically, which leads us into point number 2.
Category number 2 is specificity. Like Alex mentioned, Facebook allows you to target based on distance from a specific location, which is hugely important when you're marketing to your church and for your church. And then you can also target based on interests with Facebook. So you can have this cross-section between location and interests, which is something that cannot be replicated in traditional media. Now, you can do based on interest if you know the demographics of the type of people that watch a certain television show or listen to a certain radio program. You can also do location when it comes to direct mail or billboards. But the cross-section between location and interests does not exist with traditional media, but it does exist with digital media. And the more narrow and the more targeted you can be with your marketing, the more likely you are to reach the right people, because you can go after the right people to begin with. That brings down your cost, and that does lead to category number 3, cost. Here's probably what for me is the most interesting part of this comparison. All of the data I'm about to share with you comes from Fit Small Business, and we're going to look at the average cost of these traditional mediums. Like I said, I've worked with churches and in churches, 100 or fewer, that have spent money on direct mail, that have spent money on radio and billboards, and these costs do align with what I'm familiar with. The first one is radio. If you want to do 3 spots per day on weekdays and 2 spots per day on weekends, which is how Fit Small Business set their criteria, that's going to cost about $5,000 per month. On the lower end, in a place like Topeka, Kansas, you could get all the way down to maybe $1,000 per month. On the higher end, in a place like Dallas, Texas, you're looking at around $10,000 per month. Let's move on to local television. So this is not advertising on NBC or CBS. Local TV. One 30-second ad once every other day is going to run you about $7,500 per month. On the lower end, you might be able to get it down to $3,000 if you're in a more rural, less populated, and less competitive location. On the higher end, you can go all the way up to $20K if you're in New York City. I mean, you're talking $50K and above. Wild amounts. Billboards, right around $3,000 per month. On the lower end, a place maybe like Cedar Rapids, Iowa, you're looking at $500 to $3,500 per month. But in more competitive locations like Columbus, Ohio, which may not seem like a huge city with crazy competition, but maybe
Right.
billboards are huge there. You're looking at $17.50 a month, all the way up to $12,500 per month.
Wow.
And then this is a fascinating study that included all different types of mediums when it comes to CPM. So reaching 1,000 people, the cost per metric of reaching 1,000 people, varying costs. On the absolute high end is direct mail, an average cost of $57 to reach 1,000 people. On the low end, social media, with an average cost of $2.50 to reach 1,000 people, making direct mail 22 times more expensive. And this is probably the most important takeaway for me, Alex, on this episode of Pro Church Tools, because there is a potential. There is a world that exists where a traditional medium could outperform,
Of course,
digital media, because everything works. And if you came to me and said, look, somebody found Christ and found our church because we flew a plane and we attached a ribbon to the back of it that said, come to our church.
Yeah.
Do you not care about the one, Brady? How dare you? Like, everything can work.
Yes.
But when it comes to churches and our limited resources, we're trying to be the most efficient and use the platforms that are most affordable. And so if you use direct mail, and to reach 1,000 people costs on average 22 times more than reaching 1,000 people on social, the ROI on your direct mail campaign needs to outperform a social campaign by 22 times just to make it worth it.
Yeah, and Braid, I think that's going to be helpful for us, and this is a helpful way to frame this conversation, because for a lot of churches, this could sound like a lot of marketing speak that's unfamiliar, and maybe this isn't applicable to us as a church, but I think when we frame it this way, it comes down to being an issue of stewardship, right?
Yeah.
If you look at these numbers and see that advertising on social is 22 times less expensive than other mediums, and it's not a marketing decision anymore. This is a stewardship decision. What are we going to do? How are we going to manage our resources and often our money in advertising what we're doing and trying to reach people with, of course, the message of Jesus. But this, for us, is an issue of stewardship.
3 categories down, 2 to go. Category number 4 is flexibility. This one is huge for me. If you don't know what you're doing with marketing, and I don't know what I'm doing with marketing because it changes so quickly,
Right.
that means that you need to have the ability to move and change and be flexible. With a billboard, with a radio ad, with a TV spot, you got one shot.
Yeah.
One shot. And
With that plane flying in the sky, you look up there, you know what, that Jesus Save sign isn't quite working. Can we bring that down and try a reprint?
no, you rented this plane for 1 hour
Yeah.
and it cost $1 billion to fly it again. And so what's amazing about digital with social media, like with a Facebook ad, if you put it up and you spend, $100 on it and you get all this feedback because Facebook's amazing with their insights, and you realize, hey, this ad copy is not resonating. This image and ad creative is not resonating. You can start over for no cost.
Swap it out.
Versus that billboard that's $3,000, it's up there for the 30 days, and you got to drive past it every day and look at the crazy spelling error you made. And I know you think that's
Could you
not going to
imagine?
happen, and it likely won't. But even if your creative is perfectly spelled, if it's not resonating, you're still stuck with it. Finally, category number 5, follow-up. There's a marketing rule called the Rule of 7. It is one of the oldest rules in the marketing universe. That rule states that it's going to take about 7 different instances of your church's brand being impressed upon an individual before they are willing to take a step and maybe attend a service or maybe even just visit your website. It's not going to happen on the first time. And what's amazing about digital media is retargeting. What's amazing about digital media is that when someone visits your website, you can Facebook pixel them and then retarget them on Facebook, Instagram, and in the ad network.
Right.
Or what's amazing about digital is you can capture their email address and follow up through email because you actually have their contact info and can follow up. Versus if someone sees your billboard, they saw your billboard.
Yeah.
If someone sees your radio ad, they saw your radio ad. And now it's incumbent on that person to follow up. I don't want to rely on someone seeing my billboard to visit my website. I want to be able to retarget them and follow up with them on my time, on my initiative and prerogative, not theirs.
Yeah.
So to summarize, is there a universe where you could get a crazy deal on direct mail and it could somehow be cost synonymous with social? Maybe there's a crazy deal, but that direct mail still won't be as flexible as digital, and it won't be as specific as digital, where you can target based on location and interests and that cross section, and you still won't be able to reach as many people likely, and you definitely won't be able to follow up. When you have all these 5 categories and you look at traditional versus digital in a holistic way, I cannot imagine a universe where traditional comes out in front. There are so many things in digital's favor because it has completely revolutionized the way that we communicate. When we say the biggest communication shift in 500 years, We mean it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's insane. And so this, again, to Alex's point, and this is my entire thesis for this episode, is this is a thing of stewardship. Why do churches continue to use radio ads and billboards and direct mail? Because we do not know how to do the other marketing. That is not an excuse, though.
Right.
It's not an excuse to take the giving money and then spend it on a billboard that cost $3,000 when you could have reached literally tens of thousands of people
Yeah.
and then got their email and followed up and retargeted using digital. I know it's hard, but we're talking about the gospel. We're talking about the message of Jesus.
Yeah.
We do so much when it comes to our services, when it comes to our missions outreach, everything. We spend so much money, and then we buy a billboard. And I cannot understand it, and I did not expect to get this worked out, but I am. You should.
In 20 minutes or less, we talk about marketing until Brady explodes.
Passes out. Passes out. That'll do it for this episode of Pro Church Tools. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another one.
And look, the truth of the matter is I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight unless you like the video, so you just got to go ahead and do it so I can get some rest.
There you have it. There you have it.